Hey there. I'd like to tell you all a story. A story of someone who is very special. My mother was a woman named Pam, and she loved God and loved people. It's the best way I can describe it. She spent most of her life, all as long as I knew her, she would work as a teacher, and she would love us, and she'd spend her weekends, her Saturdays she'd go and she'd visit the poor in our neighborhood and the families that they had. And on Sunday, she'd go and she'd gather a whole busload of kids and adults that would come along. And she'd tell them that God loved them and that she loved them. We always had around the house a section that was just dedicated to stuff that we planned to give away. The stuff that we bought for the purpose of giving away. Food and drinks and snacks and toys and all manner of things. And it was just a normal and expected thing around. I didn't know a world different than one where we loved people. And we were trying to be good to people. And she was truly, truly special. And when I was in college, my mom found a lump under her arm and went to go have it checked. And they had lots and lots of tests, and lots of them were inconclusive, and they weren't sure what the deal was. But they showed that there was some trouble in her spine as well. And she thought, well, that's probably arthritis. Her mom had arthritis, and she had gone to the hospital and been diagnosed with juvenile arthritis when she was 6 years old. And so she had it for a long time. It was amazing to me because she never complained. Never once did I hear her complain about being sore. But I'm certain she must have been. But she was good. And it turned out that on the day that I was to graduate, she received word from one of her doctors that it was in fact cancer that was spread throughout her body. And she pulled herself together and flew out to watch me graduate later that day, and refused to let it stand in the way of my event. After graduation, I spent a couple years interning, and we had learned about it then, but she was still functioning well, and I always assumed things would be fine. But, of course, they were not. I did not know how much it was affecting her then, because I just couldn't reconcile with the fact that time was running out. But every single day, she still loved people. She drove a bus for a school in the area, and she loved those kids. And every Saturday, she would go and she'd visit the poor in our areas, and she'd go find the kids with a single parent who maybe was neglectful or all other manner of things, or just was poor and helpless. And she'd go gather them up, as many as she could, and she'd love on them. She'd bring them to her church and tell them that God loved them and that she loved them. As things got more sore and more tiresome, when I finished interning, I came home so that I could work overnight and my father could work over day, and somebody would always be home because she had gotten to a point that she had very little time each day that she could be functional. And there would always be somebody there in case she ever got sick. Many, many, many different types of food made her ill. And it was just always tepid what could do for her and what could not. And then While I was there for that time period, she she continued to decline, and it was kind of rough. But I did not understand, still, that I was running out of time. I just kept assuming if I just keep feeding her, if I just keep taking care of her, it's going to be all right. Eventually, she's got to get better. The reason that she's losing all this weight, the reason that all this is happening is because people are giving up. They aren't trying hard enough. And I couldn't reconcile with it. But she continued to love us, to love God, and to love people. My little brother was in high school and was getting close to his graduation. And when she eventually became bedridden, my father restructured the toy room that was downstairs so that there could be a bathroom right there inside that room, and that there could be a hospital bed put there, and he had a futon put there so that he could sleep there and she could be there and he could help her with any of her needs. And eventually, my brother graduated. And when he did graduate, they had the graduation at our house on our front porch, and they opened that window so that she could watch them. And that was pretty much her last very lucid day. Before then, when she was still in her own bed, she would lose more and more time of each day that she could be up and about. And eventually it got to the point where she would have 3 hours a day that she could be up. And she couldn't go out very much anymore. But whenever Sunday came, she would have me take her for those 3 hours that she had. She timed it so that she would be able to be awake when it was time to go and take care of those kids. And I'd bring her in, and she'd love those kids, tell them that she loved them and that God loved them. And then, about an hour and a half later, she would barely be able to function, and I'd bring her home. And that continued when she had an hour each day that she could function, and ended when she couldn't get up anymore. And she'd still write to them, and send them messages, and make sure that people told her, make sure that people told them that she was thinking of them. One day, that May 27th, I was woken up by my father in the middle of the day, and I was told that the person from hospice was here and that they had said that if we wanted to see her, it was time, that we only had a few hours left maybe. And I came downstairs, and I watched my sister coming out of what had once been the toy room and was now the place that she was. And I walked inside, and I heard her very rattled breathing. My sister had kind of ducked out in a hurry, covered her mouth, and was just on the verge of tears. And I saw her for about 15 seconds and just touched her hand and said, "Mom, I love you." And about 15 seconds after I walked in the room, while I was all alone, she went home. Shortly thereafter, it was time to have her funeral at the church, and their auditorium was being rebuilt, so they wound up needing to hold the funeral in that cafeteria where she had spent 30 years loving on those kids. And something I will never forget happened. That room was supposed to be able to hold about 200 to 300 people, and it was full of people from states across the country that had known Pam and had worked with her or had grown up with her. 30-year-olds who had grown up on her bus 25 years ago. people who had been there a couple years ago, 40-year-olds who were 10 when she started out. Not only was that, but that hallway outside was packed all the way to the door. There was nothing like I'd ever seen. There was cars all the way down the neighborhood, people walking past dozens of houses to reach that place. People in all manner of dress, from the fanciest clothes you'd ever seen, to the wildest hair and the tattoos and piercings and all manner of stuff. Because no matter how long you had known her, no matter when it was, those people knew that Pam loved you. No matter what you thought or what you felt about anything else, they knew that Pam loved her. And it was beautiful beyond anything I know how to explain. My mom was someone who loved God and loved people. It was something I absolutely should have expected. And in a way, somewhere I probably did know it was going to be like that. When that day came, and there was no room for all the people that wanted to see the lady that loved them. While we were there, we heard about another lady who was a mom's dear friend named Gracie. And she had also had cancer and had passed away a year before. And we heard the very, very last song that my mom had ever sung publicly. And it was amazing. It's very special. And I want you to hear that today. So I'm going to bring it to you.
I don't know about tomorrow. I just live from day to day. I don't borrow from its sunshine, for its skies may turn to gray. I don't worry o'er the future, for I know what Jesus said. And today I'll walk beside him, for he knows what is ahead. Many things about tomorrow I don't seem to understand, but I know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my hand. Every step is getting brighter as the golden stairs I climb. Every burden's getting lighter, every cloud is silver-lined, and the sun is always shining. There no tears will dim the eye at the ending of the rainbow, where the mountains touch the sky. I don't know about tomorrow, it may bring me poverty, but the one who feeds the sparrow is the one who stands by me. And the path that be my portion may be through the flame or flood, but his presence goes before me, and I'm covered with his blood. Many things about tomorrow I don't seem to understand, but I know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my hand.
I love you, Mom.